The lock clicked into place with a sharp finality. I stood in the hallway, 5 days deep into this punishment, the cool hardwood pressing into my bare feet. Through the frosted glass of the kitchen door, I saw silhouettes: my mother plating food, my sister seated at the table, my father unfolding his napkin. The smell of roasted chicken floated through the gap beneath the door. It made my stomach cramp so hard I had to hold the wall for balance. "No dinner for liars," my mother called, her voice bright and practiced, like it was some inside joke. My father didn't laugh. He just said, "This is good for you." It hadn't always been like this. 6 months ago, the punishments were smaller. No dessert if I talked back. No seconds if I forgot to say thank you. At first, I thought I could earn the food back. I apologized. I offered to do extra chores. But the rules kept changing, slippery as oil. The real shift came when I asked why Miri, my 13-year-old sister, got new shoes for school while I was still wearing the ones with frayed seams and soles that flapped when I walked. My mother called it ungrateful. My father said I was creating problems. That night, I didn't get dinner. The next time, it was breakfast too. After that, it became normal, expected. Now the kitchen door was locked with a deadbolt I wasn't allowed to touch. I had stopped asking. I'd stopped knocking. I just stood there, hand on my rib cage, counting heartbeats until the hallway stopped spinning, behind the glass. Someone laughed. A fork scraped a plate. I turned away. Upstairs, I had a bottle of water and 1 granola bar left, hidden under the mattress. It started with a slip. Mrs. Darnell asked me why I hadn't turned in my worksheet, and I told her the truth without thinking I've been dizzy. It's hard to focus. She looked at me longer than usual, her eyes narrowing like she saw something I hadn't meant to show. Then she asked if I'd eaten breakfast. I hesitated. Not really. I said, "Not in a couple days." I didn't mean it as a cry for help. I was just answering a question. But by lunch, the counselor was pulling me into her office. That same afternoon, the school called home. When I walked through the door that evening, my mother was waiting. She didn't scream. That would have been easier. Instead, she smiled tight, deliberate, and said, "We feed our daughter perfectly well." Her voice was loud enough to be heard by whoever might be listening. Then she turned to me, voice quieter, deadlier. "You want attention so badly you'll lie to strangers." "Now I didn't lie," I said. She stepped forward. "You told them we don't feed you." "I just said I was dizzy. I didn't mean stop talking." The next morning, the kitchen door was locked, not just with the usual child-proof knob cover, a full lock, metal bolt. I wasn't even offered water with breakfast. I heard Miri chewing pancakes as I walked past the door. Later that day, I heard her on the phone with someone, maybe the school again. "She's going through a phase," my mother said. "She lies for sympathy. We're handling it with appropriate discipline." Discipline. That word became a knife I carried in my stomach. Sharp, silent, invisible. My father never questioned it. He just nodded when she spoke. He nodded a lot. I stayed in my room the rest of the night, rereading biology notes I could barely focus on, trying to remember when the truth had stopped mattering. That night, I sat on the stairs, just outside view of the kitchen but close enough to hear the clink of forks and the scrape of plates. The smells were unbearable: garlic, roasted vegetables, something buttery and warm. My stomach twisted, hollow and sharp. "Is Sable eating with us?" Miri asked. "No," my father replied. "Since she can't appreciate family meals, she doesn't get to participate. But she'll eat when she learns respect," he added. Firm. A little hunger builds character. It wasn't the first time I'd heard him say that. It used to be about forgotten chores or missed curfews. Now it was about opinions, tone, even silence. I pressed my palm against the floor, grounding myself while my head swam. Upstairs, I'd hidden a granola bar under my mattress when I'd stolen from Isla's lunch when she wasn't looking. I told myself I'd replace it somehow, but that felt like a lie. Survival made liars of everyone. I ate half of it in the bathroom, careful not to leave crumbs, washing it down with cold tap water like it was something indulgent. The next day, I went to school lightheaded but steadier. During lunch, I sat next to Isla and kept my eyes on the table while she unwrapped her sandwich. "You're not eating?" she asked. "Not hungry," I said, the words already automatic. When I got home, the house was quiet. I went to my room and reached beneath the mattress for the rest of the granola bar. It was gone. Later, my mother knocked once, then walked in without waiting. She held the empty wrapper like evidence in a trial. "Hoarding food," she said. "That's a red flag. You're building disordered patterns. We're doing this for your own good." I wanted to scream, but my throat burned instead. I wanted to ask how someone could create the very thing they claimed to prevent. But I knew better. I kept quiet, eyes fixed on the floor. That night, the pantry was locked too. Even the fruit bowl disappeared from the counter. I cinched my skirt tighter that morning, but it still slipped down over my hips. The waistband had nothing left to grip. My mirror showed someone unfamiliar hollow cheeks, dark circles, arms like sticks. I layered a cardigan over my uniform and hoped no one would notice. At school, I moved slowly, careful not to waste energy. I skipped PE by saying I had cramps. I did have cramps, but they weren't the kind anyone could fix with a heating pad. During lunch, Isla offered me half her banana. I shook my head. "I'm good," I said. She frowned, but didn't push. She was used to me saying that now. By sixth period, my head was pounding. Biology. Mr. Rodriguez was talking about survival mechanisms in extreme conditions. He wrote something on the board starvation response, then turned and said, "When the body is deprived of calories for extended periods, it starts by consuming fat reserves." He kept going, then muscle. And in the most severe cases, even organ tissue begins to break down. I gripped the side of my desk, trying to keep my balance. The letters in my notebook swam. My vision pulsed at the edges. I could hear him still talking about adaptability, about the body's will to survive, but it felt distant, like I was underwater. I blinked, once, twice, trying to clear the blur. My pen slipped from my hand, and then I was falling. Chairs scraped, voices rose. My face hit something hard, cold linoleum. For a moment, I was aware of arms catching me too late, the sound of my name being shouted. Then everything went quiet. I woke to fluorescent lights and the sharp scent of antiseptic. My head throbbed. A blood pressure cuff tightened around my arm, and I saw Mrs. Chin, the school nurse, leaning over me. "Sable," she said, voice gentle but urgent. "Can you hear me?" I nodded slightly. "When did you last eat something I tried to remember?" "The granola bar. 2 days ago." "Or was it 3? I opened my mouth. But no sound came. She helped me sit up slowly, her hand warm against my back. "We're going to get you checked out. You're safe." "Okay." I didn't know what that meant. She pointed to the scale in the corner. "Let's see where we're at." I stood, unsteady. The numbers blinked. 84. The numbers flashed once more, 84, and then settled. I stared at them like they belonged to someone else. Mrs. Chin didn't say anything at first. She just pressed her lips together, her eyes moving from the scale to my arms, then back again. Her expression changed, like something inside her had snapped from concern into certainty. "Have you lost weight recently?" she asked. I shrugged. "I think so." "A little." She pointed at the chart from last week's check-in. "You weighed 89 last Tuesday." I felt my legs go weak. I gripped the edge of the nurse's cot for balance. "I'm fine," I whispered. "You're not fine." "Sable," she said, already reaching for the phone on her desk. "You're down 5 pounds in 7 days. That's not just a growth spurt, that's medical danger." "Please don't," I said, voice cracking. "Please, don't call anyone." She paused, the receiver halfway to her ear. Why not? I hesitated. My parents. They'll be mad. They'll think I'm making it a big deal. Her voice softened, but her hands didn't stop moving. I know you're scared, but you need help. This is serious. I don't have an eating disorder. I blurted. I didn't say you did. I'm not starving myself. I'm not doing this on purpose. Mrs. Chin held my gaze. Who's withholding your food? Sable. I opened my mouth to lie, to say something easy I forget to eat. I skip meals. I've just been stressed. But the words wouldn't come. My mouth moved, but nothing landed. There was nothing left in me to spin another version of their story. She picked up the phone and dialed anyway. I sat down, trembling. While she spoke to the dispatcher, I caught fragments: severe weight loss, unresponsive in class, risk of malnutrition. When she hung up, she knelt in front of me. An ambulance is on the way. They'll take you to get checked out. You're safe now. Okay, safe. The word felt foreign, dangerous, even. They'll be angry, I said again. She didn't argue. She just laid a hand on my knee and said, sometimes the truth makes people angry. That doesn't make it wrong. The sirens came quicker than I expected. I heard them through the window before I saw the flashing lights. As the paramedics entered the room, I pulled my sleeves down over my wrists and lowered my eyes. I didn't speak when they asked questions. I just let them do what they needed to do: blood pressure, oxygen, vitals. I lay back as they strapped me onto the stretcher. As they wheeled me through the hallway, I saw faces in the classroom windows, curious, shocked, whispering. Some of them knew me. Most didn't. But it didn't matter. My secret wasn't mine anymore. The hospital room was cold, but not unkind. The sheets were stiff, the lights too bright, and everything smelled like plastic and lemon cleaner. Still, it felt safer than home. Dr. Kumar introduced herself softly. Her hands were steady, her eyes calm. She didn't start with hard questions, just a few about how I was feeling, if I had any nausea, if the IV was bothering me. I answered in short phrases, nods, anything that would get her to move on. She didn't. Instead, she pulled a chair beside my bed and said, Sable, I want to ask you something that might be difficult. You don't have to answer if you're not ready. I nodded again. Are you choosing not to eat, or is someone preventing you from accessing food? My throat tightened. I looked away, pretending to study the monitor's soft beeping. I'm not anorexic. I mumbled. I didn't say you were. I just forget sometimes. Every day, she asked gently. Silence stretched between us. My fingers curled into the hospital blanket. Dr. Kumar leaned in. Sable, who's restricting your food? The air in the room thickened. I could feel it sitting on my chest. I swallowed hard. They lock the kitchen, I whispered. She didn't flinch. She didn't ask why. She just nodded slowly, as if the answer had only confirmed what she already knew. Your parents. I nodded. And how long has this been happening? I hesitated. A few months. It started small. Less dessert. No seconds. But then they said I needed to learn gratitude. They said hunger builds character. Dad says I'll eat when I learn respect. Dr. Kumar's jaw tensed for just a moment. Then she stood and placed a hand on my arm. Thank you for telling me. After she left, a nurse came in and began writing things down. More blood tests. Heart monitoring. The room filled with quiet urgency, like they were all piecing something together that I had tried so hard to keep scattered. I closed my eyes and pulled the blanket up to my chin. For the first time, I wasn't sure if protecting them had ever protected me at all. I didn't know they were bringing Miri until I heard her voice in the hallway. She sounded small, smaller than usual. I couldn't make out the words, just the way she spoke them, hesitant and unsure. A nurse peeked into my room, then opened the door wider. Behind her stood my little sister, arms folded, eyes wide. She stepped in slowly, clutching the sleeves of her hoodie. I watched her take in the machines, the IV line in my arm, the way I couldn't even sit up without help. Her mouth trembled. She didn't come closer, just stood near the foot of the bed like she wasn't sure she was allowed. "They said I could visit," she said softly. I nodded. "Okay." A social worker stood just outside the door, watching, not interrupting. Mary didn't speak for a long time. She looked around the room, at the beeping machines, at the blood pressure cuff still wrapped around my arm. Then, finally, she said, "I didn't know it was this bad." I couldn't answer. She looked at the nurse, then back at me. "Are you in trouble, No?" I said, "Not anymore." Her eyes welled up. She glanced toward the door, then stepped closer. Voice barely audible. "Sometimes, Mom makes me eat in front of you. She says it's to teach you a lesson." My chest ached, but not from hunger. "I hear you crying at night," she said. I try not to. "But I do." Behind her, the social worker's face changed. She stepped into the room with a notepad. "I wanted to give you something," Mary added, reaching into her hoodie pocket, a granola bar. She placed it on the bedside table like it was something sacred. The social worker asked Mary to sit and gently began asking questions. Mary answered them all. And just like that, the story I had carried alone cracked open. The nutritionist came in that afternoon, clipboard in hand, eyes serious but kind. She didn't ask me anything at first. She just explained what she'd reviewed: my labs, my weight history, the notes from the ER team. "I want to be very clear," she said. "This isn't anorexia. This isn't self-restriction. What we're seeing here is consistent with involuntary starvation." The words landed like a stone in my chest. She walked me through the data: severe vitamin deficiencies, muscle loss, electrolyte imbalances. My heart rhythm was unstable. My liver was showing signs of stress. She said if things had continued even another few weeks, there could have been permanent organ damage. Maybe worse. We see this kind of malnutrition in extreme cases: famine victims, prisoners of war, not in teenagers living at home. I stayed quiet. I didn't know how to speak around the lump in my throat. "We're making a mandatory report," she added. "The authorities have been contacted." For a moment, I felt panic rise in me, like I needed to take it back, like I should have lied after all. But then I remembered Mary's face, the way her hands had shaken when she gave me that granola bar, and I didn't say a word. Later, I heard quiet voices outside the door, someone confirming police would arrive soon, that the report had been filed. The nurse came in to check my IV. She didn't say anything, but her hand was gentle on my arm. I lay back against the pillows, my body still weak, my mind louder than it had ever been. Whatever this had been: lesson, punishment, discipline, it had a new name now. They arrived just before sunset. I heard my mother's voice before I saw her sharp, rehearsed outrage echoing down the hallway. "This is absurd," she said to someone. "Our daughter has a history of manipulation. She's always been dramatic. We've done everything we can for her." A moment later, they were at the doorway, flanked by a man in a gray suit, some lawyer I didn't recognize. My father didn't look at me. My mother did, and her face was carefully arranged, like she was performing. "You look awful," she said, almost with pity. "See, this is what she does. She makes herself sick for attention." No one responded. Dr. Kumar stood beside the bed, calm and unmoved. The social worker stepped forward. A police officer entered the room without fanfare, holding a clipboard. "We've reviewed the evidence," he said flatly. "Your daughter's medical records show severe malnutrition. There are documented signs of intentional deprivation. A food restriction chart was found in the home. Your other child has confirmed the kitchen was locked." My mother turned toward the lawyer, sputtering. My father finally looked at me, just once, his jaw tight. "You don't know what you're doing," he muttered. "I know exactly what I'm doing," Dr. Kumar replied, her voice like steel. The officer moved forward. "Mr. and Mrs. Marin, you're under arrest for child endangerment, neglect, and abuse." My mother protested as they placed handcuffs around her wrists. We gave her everything we were trying to fix her. The officer didn't flinch. You nearly killed her. They walked out without another word. The door closed behind them, and the silence that followed was heavier than anything I'd carried before, but for the first time, I wasn't carrying it alone. The pantry in my aunt's house doesn't even have a door, just open shelves lined with cereal boxes, dried fruit, canned soup. There's always a bowl of bananas on the counter, always cheese in the fridge. No one keeps count. No one locks anything. I still flinch sometimes when the microwave beeps. I still ask before taking seconds, even though I don't need to. My aunt never comments. She just passes me the bread and reminds me there's more in the toaster. Miri and I cook dinner together now. Nothing fancy pasta. Scrambled eggs, grilled cheese, but it feels like a ritual. Her hands are more confident than mine in the kitchen. She grates too much cheese and dares me to say something about it. Once, while slicing apples, she looked up and said, "Remember when Mom said hunger builds character?" I nodded. She said it a lot. She was wrong, Miri said, tossing a slice into her mouth. Surviving her built character. The hunger just built trauma. We didn't laugh, but we smiled a little. It felt like something closing. My therapist says healing isn't a straight line. Some nights I still dream of locked doors and empty plates. Some mornings I forget I'm allowed to eat without permission, but each meal, each bite, feels a little less like defiance and a little more like peace, and every time I walk past the open pantry, I remember that I don't have to earn it anymore.